Welcome back. This is still New Day. Now, our first conversation for this morning is Revitalizing Nigeria's Cultural Heritage Through Technology. And joining me this morning is Roger Okewole. He's a visual artist and he'll be helping us talk about, discuss, and dissect this very topic. Good morning, Roger.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My name is Princess. How are you
Oh,
this
hello,
morning?
hello, Princess. How are you? Nice name. Nice name.
Thank you very much. So, we're discussing revitalizing um, Nigeria's cultural heritage through technology.
Mhm.
How do we intend doing this?
Well, I am. I'm a graphic artist. My main medium right now. Well, I always used pencils and paints back in the day, but now I use electronic media. By coincidence, the very iPad I'm using to talk to you now is my like my portable studio, and I started up an online store where I sell prints and I sell apparel with Afrocentric artwork designed to change the narrative, to kind of doing my small part to fly the flag for our cultural heritage. Not just Nigeria's, I see the title on the flyer, Nigeria's, but I tend to focus on sub-Saharan Africa in general. And
Okay,
this is a reaction to mass media. I live in the States. I'm talking to you in the States.
okay.
I'm talking to you from New Jersey. I stayed up till 3:30 for this interview. So it's 3:30 a.m. here. So
Wow.
I I live in the States, and over here, I'm sure you know the Marvel movies are very popular.
Yes, yes,
And let me show you the room I'm sitting in. You can tell I'm a fan of comic books. So
of course.
yes, so I'm surrounded by that stuff all the time. And it occurred to me when the Thor movie came out, not so much for a child living in Nigeria, but imagine a Nigerian child living in the States. Why should that child know more about Thor than about Amadioha or Ogun or Shango? And also, given the current atmosphere in the United States, I think it behooves a person in my situation more to somewhat change the narrative, push back on we don't have a background, to do more to push us forward in the same media, in a media that talks to the youth. So I don't believe repeated paintings of wooden statues speak to the youth today. You have
Okay,
youth that here that were brought up reading Wolverine comics.
yes.
And so I focus on pop art. Um, there's a guy called Roy Lichtenstein. He popularized making pop art, quote unquote, fine art. And he had a very comic book based approach to things. And that's my approach. I don't do the traditional woman carrying calabash on her head to the river kind of African. That's not what I do. I do Shango actually made of electricity. So it'll appeal to the younger generation. And when I know I've achieved my mission is when I get asked questions about what I just drew.
Okay. So
Mhm.
help me understand. I mean,
Yes.
the cultural heritage I understand
Yes.
includes food, attire,
Yes.
language, the dialect, and all of that. If we're
Yes.
centering mostly on the ancestry, what
Yes.
then happens to, because I understand that to some extent, the there's an awareness of the food of African
Mhm. Yes.
Nigeria.
Yes.
The attire is widely, advertised. So
Yes.
why do we need to, what are we trying to revitalize again? Because if you want to channel all the ancestry into digital, to me, I feel
Yes.
like it loses the essence of what the ancestral should be.
I have a two-word answer to you, Princess. Two words: Black Panther. And that imaginary country in Africa called Wakanda. No African kid living abroad should think that that bears any resemblance to reality. Is my approach. Is my opinion. So when I watched the movie, I was very conflicted by that movie. I love the movie. I've been reading Black Panther well before anybody ever thought of making a movie. But I was very conflicted by the movie. I love the movie, but I was very conflicted. And I thought, in my medium, I'm not a professor of arts, but I thought that my part of changing the narrative, my part of adding to the narrative was to, in some way, portray our culture in a pop art setting so that it would speak to younger generations. And that's my approach. That's the approach I have. I mean, I believe a poet would do it differently, a cook would do it differently, a fashion designer would do it differently. That's my avenue. And keep in mind, I have a teenage daughter, so she's brought up here, and I need her to be aware. She's a New Jersey girl. Let's face it, she's not a Surulere girl, but I need her to be aware of her background in my small way, and that's my main incentive. I get what you're saying about the clothing and the food and all that kind of stuff, but that's my approach to it.
Okay, okay. So, tech, right?
Yes.
And culture.
Mm.
It's words apart, right? How are we transcending? What is the mode of, what kind of technology are we interpreting? Is it, you said, drawings? How are
Yes.
we going to preserve this so that the youths and those in diaspora can relate with it? Because if you just leave it to persons in the US, it's something they're
Yes.
already familiar with. And us
Yes.
down here, there are some technologies and there are some things that you will draw, like the
Yes.
AI, its
Yes.
invention, we won't understand it. So how do you, marry both worlds, the
So
Nigerian
let
youth and those in diaspora?
so a picture speaks 1,000 words. So let me show you something. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see. This is gonna be a bit awkward because I can't share screens over this. But let's see what we can do here. Let me show you something. Um, can you see?
Yes.
That's my interpretation of Ogun, the Yoruba god of metallurgy.
Okay.
That weapon he's holding is a direct replica of ancient Yoruba weaponry. The armor
Okay.
he's wearing is now, you know how in Britain, in stately homes, castles, and all that, they have suits of armor standing in halls, so we know what the armor look like.
Okay.
In order to do this, I had to look at museum pieces and interpret what the museum figurines were wearing, and I used that to create. Let me zoom in and use that to create this. So I did this electronically. This is electronic graphic design. And then
Okay.
let me show you something. I have this on t-shirts and I have this as prints. And the point I started out with was no one should know more about Mars, the Greek god of war, than about Ogun. No Nigerian kid living abroad should know more about Mars, the Greek god of war, than about Ogun. So let me show you something else. You asked about technology, so let me
Yes.
let me show you something else. I figured this would be easier to show. Okay, so this is I did a time lapse of me drawing his headgear. This is the exact same thing you just saw. I did a time lapse of it, and it shows that even though it's a computer, you still apply the old techniques. Can you see the stuff being added on? That was the ironically, my daughter was at gymnastics class when I was drawing this, and that's the advantage of having an iPad to do this. So you carry your studio with you everywhere, and that's the advantage of the technology involved. So this is
Okay.
how I do this. That's how I drew his headgear in the first place. See,
Okay.
so that's what I'm talking about. So I believe that this speaks to the youth that are raised on Marvel comics more than the stead traditional approach, because I believe that representing our culture in a modern pop art way will speak to someone who reads stuff like you can see in my this is my studio. Those are comic books in the bottom corner. There's over 1,000 comic books in this room, over 1,000. So I believe a child like me living here, a Nigerian child like me, this will speak more to that child than anything else. That's my belief. It's just, you try, I don't pretend that my work alone will change the narrative, but I want to be part of the movement. That's my approach.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to learn. I'm learning. Now,
Yes.
we grew up to understand that to learn about your culture and
Mm.
your ancestry, you need
Yes.
to read. You
Yes.
need to visit libraries, archives,
Yes.
museums, see these things, feel
Yes.
them. Now
Yes.
that you're technology, if I like
Yes.
to use the word, these histories, wouldn't it lose the effect of having to, really connect? When you go to the museum, you see these things, you feel it. If I have to read about Ogun, have to read about Amadioha through a
Yes.
picture text,
Yes.
I personally, I will not really understand or feel that, okay, this is something that connects to me as a Nigerian.
So, hey, Princess, see the way I'm smiling? I look like a lecturer. A lecturer asked me a question, and I already knew the answer. So let me
Okay.
show you something. I have it right here. Are you in Lagos, Princess? Are you in Lagos?
No, I'm in Enugu State,
Oh, I'm sorry.
southeast.
I'm a Lagos boy, so we
Yeah.
Lagos understand. Nowhere else exists. Okay, so I got this book at Terror Culture in Lagos. It's a big bookstore over there. It's called The History of the Yorubas by Reverend Samuel Johnson, and he wrote this back at the turn of the 20th century, in the late 1800s. The book was never finished. So I want to show you something. I decided to go through the book and represent different parts of the book in an educational fashion. So I'm going to show you something now. Let's do this. All right. So there's a section. Can you see? There's a section of
Yes.
the book that talks about the ladies that live in the Oba's palace. There are 8 of them, and I thought it was intriguing because I'd never heard of these ladies before. So I'm going to show you. These are ladies of palace. Now I'm going to show you this. It's hard to do this with one hand. So let me do this. Okay. There's Iya Oba. There's Arerite. There's Iyakere. There's Iyamonari. There's Iyanaso. There's Oru Kumefun. There's Iyafin Iku. There's Iyalagbo. And then look at this. What I did here.
Okay.
I did a poster, and I lifted this text from the book. I hope I'm not killing copyright, but I cited the book, and I made it look like a parchment that was discovered, like Indiana Jones. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so there you go. So Princess. So here you can see I talked ladies of the palace. This is all from the book. History of the Yorubas. Ladies of the palace, they reside in the palace, but strictly speaking, could not be grouped with the king's wives. And I gave their titles. And I believe that this is more accessible to your average. Keep in mind, I create my work for kids in the diaspora. So this is more accessible for your average kid living in New Jersey or Texas or wherever than necessarily digging through a bunch of history books on West Africa. That's my approach. I don't claim it to be the end all and be all, but it's my approach.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, you said the books are for
Mhm.
children in diaspora. But in the beginning,
Yes.
you said it's beyond Nigeria, diaspora, and youth general. How do we make this? How do we make this picture book available to the people you are trying to revitalize their cultural heritage? Because
Okay.
persons in the US might have relatives in Nigeria. And then we need to, when you read the book in the US, you need to ask us. And if you're asking me about something you read in a book and I'm not seeing the
Yes.
book, or I don't even know what
Yes.
is inside the book,
Yes.
I may not know what to answer you. So how do we make this picture book accessible and
All right.
engaging to us here?
So um, I did something else. I stretched myself a little bit. My mom is Jamaican. My mom is not Nigerian. My dad was Nigerian, Yoruba. My mom is Jamaican. So I did something else. I did this. This one got me a bit of trouble. I'm going to show you. I sometimes get myself in trouble. I did this one. You know how superstitious our people are.
Yes.
So I did this one to appeal to first. And this print is available on my website. I made the T-shirt for my daughter. I have an online shop which I'll share with you. I made the T-shirt for my daughter. She wore it to school, and her friends, actually, one of her friends called me from the school to compliment me on the design.
Okay.
This child is also a child. Her parents are also, I believe. Let me think. Where's Sanaya's parents from? I believe her parents are Ghanaian. I could be wrong, but at least one of her parents is Ghanaian. And she called me, and she was impressed by the design. And then let me show you something else. Hold on.
Okay.
Can't do things one hand at a time. So hold on.
All right.
So this is Yemoja. So I chose Mami Water and Yemoja because both of these are not restricted to West Africa. They are both revered in the West Indies, Caribbean, and in Brazil. It goes well beyond West Africa. And if you see with Yemoja, I made her followers look like the Mami Water I did in the other design.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show you one other thing. And I sent this information to Arrow before this interview was set up, so you should have it. This is my website. Hold on, let me show you this. Okay, so catalog. All right. So everything I sell, I call it the African Pantheon. Which is a play on the Greek pantheon, which you are always getting shoved at us in comic books and in movies and in print and constant. So this is my own answer to that narrative, and I have a lot more pieces here than I've showed you. A lot more. I don't know how much time I have, but
Yeah,
I
our
have a
time
lot.
is actually up.
Yeah, okay, my dear. But yeah,
All right. Thank you
I
so much. Okay, well, I think I still have 3 minutes on the clock. So, in essence, you're telling us that in revitalizing Nigeria's cultural heritage,
yep,
it doesn't only teach, it also reminds us of
yes,
who we are and where we are.
that's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. As a visual artist,
Yes,
this is me asking a very curious question. What does it feel like to be a visual artist, to tell
it's very.
stories through
I will tell
visuals?
you that piece that I told you about Ogun. It was very, very satisfying. It is very, very satisfying because when you have an idea in your head and you successfully translate it to the art, it is very, very satisfying. Conversely, when you're not able to sufficiently translate it, it's very frustrating. So you go between the two emotions. You go between. It's like a pendulum effect. So that Ogun was very satisfying because exactly as I envisioned it is what I drew, and that was one of those really, really satisfying pieces of work that I did. Not all my pieces are like that. When I did the Orumila, I had to do 3 different um, versions of Orumila to finally get what I wanted to do, to show him as a divination deity.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for
It's a
joining
pleasure.
us.
I'm going back to bed. Thank you, Princess.
Do enjoy your rest.
Bye bye.
All right. New day continues after this break.